Fort Polk, Louisiana. Summer 1994. A normal survival drill. Just another swamp run for a group of paratroopers. But the equipment started breaking. The night got too quiet and shadows moved where nothing should have been. By the time we figured it out, it wasn't training anymore. Something out there was tracking us and it knew exactly who it wanted. So before we continue, please make sure to like and subscribe to support the channel and comment down below where you're watching from. Thanks. I was a sergeant back then, David Rohr, 82nd Airborne. I had sand from the desert still in my boots and a swamp smell in my nose. Fort Polk, Louisiana. Summer of 1994. Heat like a wet hand over your mouth. Cicadas screaming like they were mad at God. The air was so thick you could chew it. They told us it was a survival and navigation event. 48 hours in the bayou. Pretend you're lost behind enemy lines. Minimum radio, low profile, no trucks, no big gear. Pack light and move quiet. A small squad. My squad, good ones. And a new officer to keep us honest. We started at the airfield and then out to a dirt lot near the tree line. Gear checks. Water, compass, map, meals, a couple of smoke and star flares, one signal panel. Batteries. I kept it simple. We all did. The brief said enemy patrols, played by other units, would be in the area. The usual head-on-a-swivel stuff. Move by night, hide by day, hit a few checkpoints, get out, punch your card. You pass. We grabbed one last meal in town before stepping off. Little diner with a floor that had seen too many boots and coffee that could clean carbon. Alvarez led us there. Local boy. Cajun Private Alvarez had that look like he slept in trees and could smell rain hours ahead. Quiet, big eyes, polite like his grandma raised him right. He spoke French to the waitress and she called him Petite. He rolled his eyes at that and took it anyway. "Y'all training out in the swamp?" she asked, pouring coffee you could stand a spoon in. 2 days, I said. She made a face. 2 days is 2 days too long, Sergeant. A couple of old men at the counter heard swamp and sniffed like hounds. One turned on his stool. Lean, ropey. He looked at Alvarez, not me. "You tell your friends to mind themselves," he said. "Lougarou don't care about stripes." "Hell is Lougarou?" Tex asked. "Corporal Reynolds." We called him Tex because he was, and because he leaned into it. Big belt buckles and bigger mouth. Good gunner. Even better at finding trouble. "The beast," Alvarez muttered. "People tell stories." Another man laughed through 3 missing teeth. "You don't joke about the Rougarou," he said, tapping the counter for the waitress. "Not if you're going out after dark." Tex clapped his hands. "Well, hell. Now we got local monster support. That's nice. Maybe it'll show us the way to the checkpoints." Doc Granger smiled thin. Private Ellis Granger. We called him Doc because he was our medic. Rational as a ruler. He kept a small laminated card in his pocket with doses written out, just in case the brain went sideways in the heat. Desert Storm had sanded the edges off him too. He still said please and thank you, even when he stuck you with a needle. But he didn't like swamp talk. Lieutenant Dana Keene sat stiff in the booth, hands around her mug like it might run off if she loosened up. Brand new butter bar, eager, eyes sharp. She had that academy posture and a jaw that said she didn't plan on being a joke. I had seen brand new before. Some break fast, some bend. I hoped she would bend. We ate greasy eggs and toast and kept the jokes light. The waitress crossed herself on the sly when she set down Alvarez's plate. He noticed. Said nothing. Just looked out the window at the dark smear of trees. We stepped off at last light. Humidity hugged the trunks and the frogs were loud. We wore face paint that turned to sweat rivers in a minute. Mosquitoes thick enough to chew. The swamp opened up and took us in without a word. Cypress knees like teeth. Water dark and slow. Vines that wanted your neck. The air smelled like mud and old meat and something sweet under that. Like rot that learned how to wear perfume. We moved in a file. Quiet boots on roots and dry patches, then on boards of old hunter trails. Then in black water up to the shins. "Radio stays off," I told them. "We do it by the book. Checkpoints, pace counts, bearings." The maps were paper and already feeling damp. Compass in my palm, thumb on the dial, tape around the case so it wouldn't click. Alvarez took point. Me behind him. Then Tex, then Doc, Sanderson, and the rest. Keene moved near the back, taking it in. She would ask for a quick halt, then whisper. "Sergeant confirmed distance to Alpha." And I would whisper back, About 1 click more, ma'am. And she would nod like she had planned that already. We hit the first checkpoint late. Small metal marker on a tree. I punched the card with my little set of hole punches. The bite of the tool felt good. Real. We dropped into a small dry patch under a live oak. Ate cold beans and crackers. Drank warm water. Alvarez put a small cloth bag on the ground and counted out small stones. He set them in a circle at his feet. 13. He didn't make a show of it. He didn't look at me. He just did it like he was tying his boot. Tex caught it. What's with the rocks, Swamp Ghost? Grandmare's thing, Alvarez said, eyes low. Keeps bad out. Doc raised a brow. Like a camp charm? Like a door, Alvarez said. So it knows you know. Keen smiled. The teacher smile. We'll let everyone practice whatever helps, she said. As long as the rocks don't weigh more than the radio. I let them laugh a little. Then I cut it off. We move again in 10. Lights out. Keep it tight. Normal stuff. Sweat, mud, piss in the bushes, polite cussing. The only weird then was how loud the cicadas got. Then how they stopped all at once when we stepped back on the trail, like somebody pressed pause on the world. It was a small thing, enough to make the hair on the arms say hello. We pushed deeper. The dark slid in early. The swamp makes its own hours. Night vision went on once we lost the last of the sky's glow. My goggles flickered. Not dead, but a little nervous. I pulled them up, wiped the lenses with my shirt, settled them back. The green world came back grainy and full of ghosts. I told my head to shut up. Just another night. Just another place that doesn't care about you. Sergeant, Keen whispered at one point, voice careful. How's your gut? Hot and wet, I said. Perfect, she breathed a laugh. The kind of tiny laugh you let out when you're new and the old dogs say something that sounds like a joke and maybe a warning. If you want the moment I should have called it, it was when we crossed a narrow cut of water and a cool wind came through the trees like somebody opening a freezer door. It felt wrong. The swamp does heat. It doesn't do kind wind. Alvarez looked back at me with his mouth a tight line. Feels like we're being watched, I said. I said it light like it was a joke. But it came out flat. No one answered. We reached our first hide near midnight. A strip of dry ground, just enough for us to lay out and not roll into the drink. Trees around, dense, perfect, we set a watch. 2 hours on for each. I lay down on roots and listened to frogs and my pulse in my ear. I watched the glow in the east that never came in the swamp because the swamp keeps its own sky. I dug my fingers into the dirt to feel something real. It was all real. That was the trouble. We slept in slices. Dreams oily, you wake. You forget. You just know you were down in the water with something that had hands. When I was up, I counted pace counts. Bearings. The way you keep your brain from inventing things. I sipped water and felt it go warm in my guts. A sound came through. Not frog, not gator, not hog. I've heard a lot of animals cry. They mostly remind you of babies or drunks. This was neither. It was a slow breath. Thick, wet, human, deep, but wrong around the edges. Like somebody big breathing through a nose not made for it. It came from the black tangle to our 9 o'clock. It stopped when I cursed under my breath like it could hear that little. Then it started again. Calm, like it owned the place. I put a hand on Tex's shoulder and he slid up wide awake. Like good soldiers are in places that eat you. He looked at me and I gave him the hand sign for listen. We heard it together. I saw his mouth make the words, what the hell? Alvarez was already sitting up, eyes on the trees. He had one of his small stones pinched in his fingers, rolling it. His lips moved like he was counting or praying. Doc's hand was on his aid pouch, not his rifle. Like the pouch could fix what the rifle couldn't. Probably a damn hog the size of a Buick, Tex whispered. Keep your voice down, I said. Keen crawled over, dirt on her cheek, breath careful. Report? She asked. Air moving wrong, I said. Breathing out there. Keep watch strict. We move at first light. She nodded. Professional. I watched her look at the compass on her wrist and then put it away like it was a talisman. The radios gave us a small hiccup around that time. Just enough to make you swear and call the battery pack a liar. A little cutout. A little static hiss, then back. It happened 3 times in the next hour. Compasses twitched. Not spinning. Not broken. Just a quick quiver when you faced a few specific degrees. Like a dog turning its head at a sound. I hated to admit it, but the swamp started to feel like a room with someone in it. You ever roll into a bar and the air changes because the wrong person is there? Same thing. You tell yourself it's just you being a mammal. It's just the brain that learned to check the bush for eyes when it lived in caves, okay? Fine, mammal brain was yelling. 13 stones, Alvarez whispered to himself when he thought no one was listening. 13 stones in a circle and you don't step out the circle when it's looking. Looking? Doc asked, mild eyebrow. Doing the doctor thing. You know the word? Alvarez said. Rougarou. You doing this to yourself? I said, not unkind. Save folklore for the fire pit back at the barracks. He nodded, but he did not stop rolling that stone. We moved again before dawn. The sky was a bruise. The cicadas started and stopped like a bad radio. The frogs acted like nothing mattered at all. We slid single file. Boots quiet where we could. Water up to knees, sometimes thighs. The swamp sucked at us. Smelled like hot pennies at one turn. Like dead fish at another, like sugar gone rotten at another. Every bend was new and the same. We navigated to checkpoint Delta on the map. Line by line. Keen was crisp. Kept us on task. She was good with the map. I gave her that. She stopped once and shot a back azimuth. And when I checked her work, it matched mine. She shot me a look like she needed me to see she knew what she was doing. I did, it mattered. When we pulled a short halt on a strip of ground, Alvarez scraped a little circle with his boot and set 13 tiny stones. He put his canteen in the middle like a little altar. Tex made a face but said nothing. Doc squatted next to it and said under his breath, 13 is for bad luck. Why not 14, you nut? 13 keeps it guessing, Alvarez said. If you count wrong, it counts you. Christ, Tex said. Now numbers are after me. Enough, I said. We crossed a slough where the water went cold like a mouth exhaling again. The mist hugged it like a shawl. The trees had strips of fur and skin on them in one stretch, not much. Like something brushed through and left a little coat behind. Doc touched one piece with a glove finger and sniffed the glove. He grimaced. Dog, he said, coyote. Something cannid. Big dog, Tex said. Big something, Doc said. Lieutenant Keen set her jaw. We keep moving, she said. Dawn, we hit Delta. We don't let campfire ghost stories or raccoons slow us. I almost smiled at her calling whatever she'd that skin a raccoon. It was the kind of stubborn you want from an officer until it gets you hurt. We made Delta as the sky went pale. A tacked tin disc on a post half swallowed by vines. I punched the card. Everyone took 15. Boots off, ring socks, dry feet powder, new socks. Tex propped his rifle and lit a cigarette like the poster boy for bad choices. I let him have 2 drags, then made him snuff it. The smoke hung low. The world was gray. The fog turned the trees into paper cutouts. For a second, I felt like we were all in a snow globe somebody shook and forgot to put down. I don't like it, I said. Not to anyone. Just to the dirt. The dirt did not answer. It very rarely does. We found the fishing shack mid-morning. Alvarez said it would be there before we saw it. You smell it? He asked. He wrinkled his nose. Low tide and pennies. We came on it through a stand of cypress. Crooked boards on stilts. Roof half-caved. Dock teeth rotted out. Nets hung in tatters like old skin. A mullet skittered in the shallows below. Scales flashing like a bad mirror. The door hung open. It moved on a swollen hinge and made a sound like a man clearing his throat. Eyes, I said. We go slow. We cleared it like we clear everything. Angles, hand signals. Then push. The floor complained under us. There were 3 rooms, if you could call them rooms. A front with a sink and a table, then a narrow bunk room, then a little back space where somebody once cleaned fish and their sins. The sink had a rust ring and black water. The table had a coffee can where somebody dropped nails until they stopped. The bunk smelled like feet and mildew. The back room smelled like the inside of a raw throat. Doc pointed at the planks near the back. Dark streaks. Not wet now, old, but not old. Dried blood. You could see the brown starbursts where drops hit and spread. The boards were scarred like claws had worried them. I put my palm against one and felt the grooves. Deep. More than an angry raccoon. Deeper than a knife, unless the hand on it had a reason and too much time. The air tasted like copper and old sweat. Someone got hurt here, Doc said. Bad. Maybe a hog, Keen said. Could be a hog. No hoof marks, Alvarez said quiet. No tusk scrapes on the posts. People sometimes hang hogs, Tex said, but his voice had nothing behind it. They bleed them. Then where's the hook? Alvarez asked. We stepped out back. The dock had boards missing. Between the gaps, black water like oil. Something moved under it. Not fast, just a roll, a sense. Tex leaned and the dock groaned like it was tired of him and all of us and this whole idea. We cut a line a little upriver from the shack and found the boar. Or what was left of it. It lay in the shallow reeds, half on its side. The hide was peeled back like a shirt. The ribs were snapped outward like a man had pulled them with both hands and not gotten tired and then snapped them again like twigs. The lungs were gone. The stomach was gone. It was precise. Not neat, just intentional, like someone who knew meat had been added. Doc squatted and stayed there longer than he should. He was trying to make it be a thing he understood. That was his way. He touched the snapped rib and winced. Twisted, he said. Not cut. Not chewed. Twisted out. That's a lot of force. Gator could do that if it rolled, Tex said. He wanted it to be a gator so bad I could smell it. Then where are the drag marks? Alvarez said. Where the tail slid. Where the belly went. Where the claw marks went? This thing wasn't rolled. It was opened. Keen put a hand to her mouth for a second, then put it down like she remembered who she was in front of. We've got to keep moving, she said, and her voice was steady again. We mark this on the map in case the cadre want it later. We keep to the plan. I didn't argue. The plan keeps people alive. We took bearings, we moved. We left the shack behind us. But the swamp had started to breathe again. That slow, wet breath. You could tell yourself it was wind in reeds. You could. By late afternoon, the heat was a hammer again. We sweated and the salt burned the skin raw where the gear rubbed. The bugs came like a curtain you had to push through with your face. We took a knee in a small rise with some brush around it and ate. The meals were slick and tasted like the inside of a battery. We ate them anyway. You don't eat because you want to. You eat because there's a next thing to do and you need to do it. Big gator, Tex said again. He made it a joke every time, like hitting a bruise to see if it still hurt. Nobody laughed. He looked at me a little desperate. We keep doing the simple things right, I said. That's the whole trick. Night came quick again. We set our tiny camp. I put Sanderson on watch first. Private Sanderson had that lanky kid energy. From Ohio, or Iowa, I forget. Good heart. He had a quiet way and asked about everything like he wanted to do it right the first time. He grinned a lot. That stuck with me later. The grin. Night vision flickered again. A quick jitter. My heart banged because that's what hearts do when your one good set of eyes gets cranky. I tapped the housing. It steadied. I breathed. Something crashed slow in the brush to our east. Not close, not far. Then stopped. Then the same to the west. Then nothing. The silence was a full thing you could hold. The motion sensor we hung on a string line clicked once like it had a tick. I scanned my sector. I saw movement up in the trees. Not the branches moving, a shape passing between them. Tall. Too fast for a man in water. Too smooth. I blinked and it was just green grain. I tuned the focus and saw nothing but leaves. And then I caught a leftover shimmer like heat on a road. Instinct said something had been there and was now not there. Instinct is not a court of law. It still puts people in the ground. The breathing came back, closer. It was not trying to be quiet. It was like it wanted us to hear it. That made me mad. Fear does that. I got mad at the dark for having nerve. Nobody slept much. At dawn, Sanderson shook me awake with eyes big. "Sergeant," he said. "Don't freak." "Never," I said. I stood and rolled my back and my knees popped like popcorn. He held up a boot. My boot was on my foot. It wasn't mine. It was Keen's other boot, the one not on her foot. She counted her gear every hour like a metronome. She had taken her boots off to rub her feet. The missing one had walked 50 yards and laid down in a thicket full of dew. The boot was full of mud and hair. The hair was not hers. The hair was coarse and smelled like wet dog and pennies. The laces were tied. That was the worst part. I swear to God. Like a joke from the wrong person. Keen looked at it and looked at me. Her mouth made a small straight line. She did not say a thing. She put that boot back on after Doc scrubbed it out with his drinking water and a torn shirt. She did it calm. She did it like she was going to win a medal for not screaming. I respected that. We packed and moved faster now. I did not say push, but I didn't have to. Everybody felt the wire getting tight. Second day. Radios crapped out before noon. Not dead, just dead when you needed them, static, then hiss, then nothing. Then a little whisper like a voice talking far away under a blanket, then gone. The antenna cable felt hot through the tape. We did checks. Swapped batteries. Nothing good. The handheld GPS one of the cadre lent us for fun behaved like a drunk. It wandered in circles. Showed us on the lake when we were in the trees. Then it said we were in Texas for a minute. Then it went to sleep. 1994 tech. A brick with pretensions. Back to compass and map, I said. We were already there. We tried a flare after a heavy rain burst to test it. Moisture had snuck in. It fizzled. A hiss, a cough. A sad puff, then dead. Another we left sealed. I tucked it deep in my pack like a small promise. The tracks we found looked like a joke someone thought up after too much beer. At first I thought it was a boot. It had the spread of a foot. But the toes were long and had hooks at the tips. Claw points. Not like a cat paw. More like fingers that got painted into a bad nightmare. The arch was wrong. The heel dug deep. The stride was too long for a man in water. Too even for a big cat. Biped, Doc said. He said it quiet, like the word itself could get you in trouble. Bear? Keen asked. Because she wanted the world to have bears to tuck this into. Not here, Alvarez said. Not that. Not with that shape. Say it, Tex said to Alvarez. Real harsh. Like he wanted to punch the idea. Say your swamp dog word. Alvarez didn't smile. Rougarou, he said. Werewolf. But not the storybook kind. Old men call it a curse thing that hunts in the sugar cane and bayou. Not a fairy tale. A warning. Christ, Tex said. It's a hog or some big bad dog somebody forgot to feed, I said. Whatever it is, we keep moving. Eyes out, keep spacing. No hero crap. Nobody had room for jokes then. We hit a mud flat and cut across. Legs sucked. Went thigh deep and started the panic tick. But Tex hauled him out by the straps. They grinned at each other because people grin when they almost go under. It's weird. It's a thing you do to tell your brain you're not weak. That lasted about one breath. Doc's boot kicked something hard in the mud by accident. He bent and dug it out with 2 fingers. It was metal. A small rectangle of it. Dog tags, a set. The chain had snapped or been broken. He rubbed them with his thumb and the name came up under the mud. Not one of ours. A name I did not know. A blood type. The little notch at the end. Old style. He looked at me like maybe this was a kind of ghost story he did not care for. Could be dropped by cadre, Keen said. Or left from an old exercise. Or somebody didn't make it out, Alvarez said. He touched the tags and made a sign on his chest without thinking. Then looked embarrassed and dropped his hand. We took them. You never leave a name in the mud. You take it and hand it to somebody who writes letters. Night. Second night is when people's brains start to come unglued. Food is old. Feet hurt like a swear word. Water tastes like a mop bucket. Everything looks like something. We set our camp on higher ground with water on 2 sides. Good field of fire in front. Give me 2 hours with a shovel and I could have dug something to feel safe behind. We had no shovel. We had one e-tool and that ground was roots and rock under an inch of muck, so we didn't pretend. Perimeter, I said. Motion sensors out. We used the little line alarms that run on small batteries, a cheap string and a pull pin. Cadre issue. They tripped 3 times over nothing in the first hour. Branches, frogs, or not. We reset them. We set them again. We set them closer. It did not help. Around midnight, our supply crate slid. Alpha Team had cached a plastic box for us with 1 extra water jug, a coiled rope, and a few batteries. We tucked it up under the roots of a big cypress with a snarl of brush in front, and I set a line over it like a miser. We sat 15 yards from it. Not asleep, the crate still went. We heard the drag, slow and soft, like someone who knows how to carry weight without showing it. We flashed lights and saw ripples in the black water where the crate had been. The line alarm was still set. A pin unpulled. The brush was undisturbed. The box was gone. The water said nothing. It never does. Okay, Tex said. He said it to himself and his voice sounded like he hated that word. He started seeing things after that. I don't blame him. He fired 2 shots at a shadow up in the trees. The shadow moved like it laughed. Then something screamed out in the dark. It was not human. It wasn't an animal I've heard. It was like a trumpet made of meat, long and wet and filled with iron. It did not say, "Stay away." It said, "I am here and I will come." "Safety on," I told him, and he clicked it on like it bit him. We did not talk about the fact that his second shot had gone through a branch as thick as Keen's wrist and splintered it. And I found a long black hair in the splinters. Coarse, not horsehair, not dog. I wrapped it in tape around a pencil and stuck it in my pocket, because if you don't make evidence, you go crazy. Evidence gives you something to argue with. Nobody slept. The moon found a hole in the canopy and looked sick. Fog moved in around 2 in the morning. Thick, you could chew it. It ate your light. It made the trees into shapes and the shapes into lies. The air went cool again, like a door had opened to a different place. The breathing started to circle us, low growls under it like a big engine idling way off. It would scrape a tree with something hard, scritch, scratch, then silence. Then the same behind us. It knew how sound worked out there. It knew how to throw it and make us turn. Motion sensors went off and on like a nervous tick. We'd get up, scan, see nothing but darkened shapes. Then sit, then they'd go again. It felt like it was pulling us up and down on a string. That was the point. Tired men make mistakes. We saw eyes at 2:30, red in the light, not glowing on their own, reflecting but high, higher than a man. Not in the tree, above the brush line. Like something tall and long was watching from just back enough to stay guessing. The eyes did not blink. That felt important. They just looked. When we pointed 2 lights, the eyes slid sideways and lowered until they were gone. No branches cracked. No water splashed. It just decided to not be there. "Perimeter tight," I said. "No one moves without my say. We wait this bastard out." We set overlapping sectors. We shifted every 15 minutes to keep eyes fresh. The world did not care. At 0300, Sanderson disappeared. He was on watch. I had him near the left front, 2 paces from a big buttress trunk. He had his rifle slung because I had drilled that and drilled it again, and I can see him now, standing there, humming a stupid song under his breath to stay awake. 1 second he was there. I turned my head to check the right, called a quiet status, turned back, and Sanderson was gone, like a hand had plucked him straight up. His rifle lay in the mud. The barrel was bent back at the tip like someone had grabbed it and said, "Not today." The sling had snapped. The stock had a long gouge in it like a claw had tasted it and decided it was not meat. There were footprints near where his boots had been. 1 set ours. 1 set the long things with claw points. No drag marks. No splash, no noise. Sanderson did not call out. That is the part that wakes me still. He did not even get a damn half-syllable out. Doc got to the tree where Sanderson had been and put his hand on the bark. He pulled it back with a small sound. The bark had 4 deep grooves cut in, deep enough to see the wet live wood under, deep enough to plant a coin in. He touched the sap and smelled it because Doc does things like that. He shook his head. His lips were tight. "It's playing with us," Keen said. She looked pale in the green light. She put her hand on her own wrist hard like she was taking her pulse. Then she said, "We break contact at dawn and move to the extraction point. We are being hunted." "Already are," Tech said. "Have been. It's just getting bored now." "No more lone watches," I said. "Buddy pairs. Stay touching distance." The rest of that night stretched like a bad tendon. You look at your watch and think 20 minutes have gone. It's been 2. The fog pressed in thick. When it finally thinned, the trees looked like they had moved while we weren't looking. When the birds started their psychotic morning song, we moved. The water was a black ribbon with dust on it. The air felt used. I did not count how many of us there were then, I knew. I felt the missing like a pulled tooth you cannot stop touching with your tongue. We made for the extraction point by the map. Waist-deep water for half of it. Mud with teeth for the other half. We did not stop. We drank on the move and pissed when we had to, and nobody asked for a break. The fog built back up late morning like it was personal. It turned into a wall. You could put your hand out and lose it at the wrist. You could hear your breath loud and not your buddies 2 steps away. Something moved under the water with us. Not fast, just there. Big enough to brush your calves like a dog trying to ask a question. Every time it touched a leg, the owner of the leg made a sound like a laugh and a sob. And then nobody did the laugh again. The thing did not bump hard. It was curious. That made it worse. Curiosity is for things with ideas. Stick close, I said. No one gets lost, Keen said right after me, like she could command the swamp itself. I wanted her certainty like a pill. A splash to our left, another to our right. Not big, not small. Like a hand patting the surface. A frog jumped, then did not land because something took it mid-air. I did not see teeth. I saw the space where it should have landed refuse to ripple. It just sank. Neat. Keen's nerves broke hard all at once. She fired 3 rounds at a shape in the fog that looked like a man. The shape did not move. The shape was a stump. Her rounds cut the air and tore moss curtain and hit water. She slapped her own hand on the rifle like it had betrayed her. Safe it, I said. Even she did, breathing loud. I wanted to put my hand on her shoulder and did not. There are lines you do not cross even when the world is crossing all yours. We found Tex near dusk. I am leaving out hours of bad in between, because those hours were the kind that make the skin on your back feel like a shirt 2 sizes too small. Hours of eyes and trees. Hours of small sounds on the path you want to call squirrels. Hours of motion sensors going off with nothing there, and then staying quiet when something strode by heavy in the fog. Tex lay in a low spot near the base of a cypress. He looked like he had sat down to rest and then decided to sleep. His eyes were open. He had that look like he had just thought of a joke and wanted to tell me. His throat was shredded, not cut, torn ribs showing. The rifle was bent backward over his lap like a piece of rebar some big machine did not respect. There were long marks on the bark behind him, like fingers that did not care about wood. We stood around him in a loose half circle and nobody said his name. We all knew saying it made it real in a way it already was. Alvarez whispered something in Cajun French. He said it fast like a child under a blanket. The creature answered him, same tone, like it had chewed the words once and kept the taste. A low noise came out of the trees. It had laughter stuck in it. It was not big, not loud. It was just right there. Move, I said, because you hear a thing like that and you either run or you curl up and wait to die. We moved. The fog ate the last of the light. The swamp took back all the edges. We lit 2 flares for the first time, not as signal but as comfort. They hissed and fanned out red and made the mist look like old blood. In the light, something big stood up on a log 20 yards off and watched us. It was tall, taller than a man by a lot, shoulders wide. The head wrong. Long snout without being a dog snout, fur wet and hanging in strings, arms a little too long, hands with claws like ugly knives. It did not snarl. It looked at us like a school teacher who already knew we had failed. Jesus, Doc said. He said it like he was calling attendance. It stepped sideways once and disappeared in a way that was not possible. A thing that sighs does not vanish, but the fog took it and the swamp made room for it like it was an old friend coming home. The sound of it moving came from behind us a second later. Shallow splashes, a brush of reeds bending. It never came straight on. It never moved too fast. It kept us right in the middle of its patience. We ran, and if you tell me now you would not have, you're either lying or you're dead. We ran through water and hit knees on roots and cussed and tried not to leave anyone behind. You cannot run quiet in a swamp. We sounded like pigs in a trough. We made the noises prey make when they know speed is a better god than silence. Night threw black over fog. It was absolute. The flares died with little sad sighs. We became shape and breath. Alvarez's beads clicked against his rifle in a small counting way. He muttered again in French and in English, mixing. My grandfather said, keep 13. Don't let it count you. The growl that came next was not big. It was intimate. Right at my ear. I turned and there was nothing but my own breath. We fell back to higher ground on instinct. The trees thinned a little and an old hunting trail cut into a small rise. We saw a cabin through the fog, and for a second it felt like we had seen land from a lifeboat. Old brown logs. A roof with holes. One small window like an eye. The door hung half off, but it was a door, and that meant walls, and walls are ideas as much as boards. We dug in there like rats. We pushed a busted table against the door and threw our packs against that, and set 2 lights on either side. The inside smelled like mice and thyme. Old beer cans on the floor. A cracked snakeskin in a corner. A pile of newsprint with dates so old the numbers looked like jokes. We took a second to breathe like drowning men take a second. Then the thing outside let its claws scratch the walls. Slow. Down the left wall. Then across. Then up the right. And around the house, a tour. Like it was looking for the best place to push. Do not shoot the walls, I said. We don't waste bullets on ghosts. It circled twice more and then stopped. The silence after was a wait. What does it want? Keen whispered. Time, Alvarez said, and one of us. Not happening, I said. He looked at me then like he had waited to look at me for 2 days and now it was time. My grandfather, he said, voice small in the big quiet. He was Rougarou once. That's what he told me when I was little. He said he did bad in his life and it found him. A priest broke the curse, said he passed it on if he talked about it. He told me anyway because he said secrets grow teeth. He said if I ever felt it in my chest or saw it in the water, I should not run. I should shut my mouth and not speak it aloud. I didn't listen. I told y'all its name. I set the stones and I counted and I made it look. And now it's here and it wants me. It knows my blood. Tex would have said something, but he was not there to say it. Doc opened his mouth and then shut it. Keen put her hand on Alvarez's shoulder and pulled it back like the touch burned her. We get all of us out, I said. We do not feed anything to anything. It only leaves when it takes one, Alvarez said. That's what the old men said. It counts heads and takes what is owed. We don't pay monsters, I said. Outside, claws raked the door slow. We all looked. The door held because it was a door, and because we had made it a door. We waited for dawn. Dawn did not come. Time folded up like a bad map. The radio chirped once and then coughed. I pulled the last dry signal flare from my pack and stared at it like a friend I had not appreciated. One flare. One chance to make the sky say hello. Let me try, Keen said. Hand out, she had steadiness back. The kind you get after the panic passes and there's no room left for fear. Just blocks to stack. Not yet, I said. We hold until we need the whole sky's help. The thing outside tested the walls like a man knocking on watermelons. It tapped here. It tapped there. It put its weight in slow. The logs groaned once and I put my shoulder into the table like that would fix trees. It sniffed at the gaps in the boards. I could smell it then. Dog and mud and pennies, heat. A musk that had cypress and meat in it. It made my hairs try to leave. It found the window next. A slow scratch on the glass. The glass was old and wavy and gave us a blurry blackness stuck to it. 2 eyes came to the pane. Red in our light, close too close. You could count the shine in them. They did not blink. I raised my rifle and the barrel shook once and I told my hands to be men. And then a claw came through the glass with a sound like bones in a fist. It raked the inside wall. The claws left 4 furrows in the old wood so clean they looked like somebody had burned them with a hot iron. Doc breathed like a man about to jump in cold water, and then didn't. Back wall, I said. If it goes through here, we shoot. Not where it is, but where it will be. We did not say this was not a thing we trained for. The radio spit again. A voice filtered in. It sounded like it traveled a long way through a long pipe. Any element, this is static. Say again. Any element. Break squelch if you can hear. Keen grabbed the handset and said our call sign and location in that calm officer voice you keep in a drawer. The radio hissed like a snake under a log and then went dead. But we had spoken to another thing, and the cabin knew it, and so did we. That mattered. The Rougarou, call it that, call it whatever makes your brain sit still, moved to the door again. You could feel it gather itself. It wanted in. I had the flare in my right hand and the lighter in my left. I did the math. If it came through, the room would be a fight pit with splinters and teeth. And fire is a language everything understands. Alvarez stood up. He had been quiet for a minute like he was counting heartbeats. He put his dog tags in my palm. He curled my fingers over them like he was teaching a kid how to hold a marble. This is my mess, he said. I called it. It came for my blood. Let me finish it. You sit your ass down, I said. We are not doing sacrifices in a training area. He looked at me and there was more age on his face than he had earned. Sergeant, he said respectfully, it will keep taking us one by one. You know it. It's taking an account. You're not walking out that door, I said. He nodded like he agreed. Then he stepped fast and he was at the door and he pulled the table before Keen and I could grab him. He slipped through like he had practiced in his head. He stood on the porch boards that groaned like the last breath of a drunk. He lifted his chin and spoke. Cajun French. Old words. Fast. He spoke the name of the thing and then said the names of his father and his grandfather, and he asked for forgiveness and for a bargain. He was a private making deals with legend, and I hated that I let him. I moved to drag him back, and the claw came through between us and set a line of fire on the back of my hand. I smelled my own skin and felt the heat from it. And I still think of that little line when I look at the scar. The Rougarou came fast then, faster than it had moved all night. It lunged in a way that was both on all fours and upright, like a man trying to remember how to run like a man. It hit Alvarez and they went off the porch and into the mud. The sound shook my teeth, heat, fur, wet. A quick circle of dirt flew up like a dance floor. The thing made a noise like a laugh through a bad throat. Alvarez made a sound like a prayer wrapped around a scream. I raised my rifle and saw nothing but a tangle of limbs and claws and wet black fur, and the white of Alvarez's eyes for one flicker. Keen fired. 2 shots. Then 3. She aimed at shapes. She aimed at angles. She did not aim at Alvarez. The thing jerked and turned and put one claw along the post and split it. The roof sagged. Doc threw a light stick and it hit the mud and made a small sick green pool. And in that pool the thing looked at us over Alvarez's shoulder. Its eyes were old. It did not blink. I broke the flare and it hissed and turned the world red. I threw it at the Rougarou, not like a baseball, more like a bad pitch from a tired arm. The flare landed near its chest. The thing swiped at it like a cat. The phosphorus caught wet fur with a small angry kiss. Then it bloomed. Fire crawled up its chest and danced across its face, and the smell made me gag. It roared then. The first real roar. Not a growl. Not a breath. Full voice. The swamp answered with 100 bird wings beating the air, not because they cared, just because noise makes noise. The beast flailed and stepped back into the water. Steam hissed up. The fire did not like the water, and the water did not like the fire, and neither one. The thing's eyes stayed on me and then slid to Alvarez. It put one claw on his chest. Not a slash, a weight. Like a judge. Alvarez grabbed the claw with both hands and said something in French that sounded like, "I forgive you." Then the Rougarou sank into the dark, slow, burning in threads, and then the water took it and the fire went out like a lie. Silence blew through the trees. One of those big round silences that feels like a bell. We stood not moving because moving might break whatever this was. My heart beat in my teeth. The mud where they had fought was torn up. Alvarez was not there. No body. No blood in the place you would expect a man to leave it. Just his dog tags in my hand and a little scorch on the porch and claw marks on everything. The cabin smelled like smoke and pennies and victory that had strings attached. "Sergeant," Keen said. Her voice was small. Do we have him?" "We have us," I said. We held the cabin until the sky shifted from black to gray and the fog loosened its jaw. Then we pulled our table away like old men and stepped out. No tracks but ours. No splash but our feet. The Rougarou had taken itself under like a story going back in the mouth that told it. I put the flare tube back in my pack because I am an idiot, and because soldiers keep things they might need again even when those things are broken. The radio breathed once. A voice got through. It sounded farther away now, not closer, but it was there. The bird found us at first light, rotors, then wind. Then the hoist. No hero shots, just 3 muddy idiots and a crew chief with a tired stare. We clipped in. Up and out, back at the tent hospital, they scrubbed mud and wrote notes. My hand got 4 butterfly strips. Doc stared through me and kept pressure on it like he needed a job. Keen sat straight and said nothing. We filed the report. Hostile wildlife incident. Equipment failure. Area unsafe. The captain stamped it classified and moved on. Boxes checked. Papers read the truth. That's how the machine keeps moving. They shut that training grid for a while. Environmental excuse. Red ink on the map. Cadre nodded like they'd seen worse. Sanderson's folks got the flag and the words. I wrote my letter by hand. Kept it simple. He did his duty. He didn't run. That much was true. Tex got a line at the memorial board and a toast in the barracks. Alvarez got quiet because there was nothing to return. A few months later, I took leave and drove south. No dress uniform, no talk. I went to Alvarez's Bayou because it felt like someone should. Old man outside the store watched me watch the water. We nodded, that was enough. I walked the bank at dusk, hot air. Mosquitoes doing their thing. No ghosts. Just mud reeds and a brown current that knew too much. I held his tags in my pocket. Felt the weight. Said his name once. Not loud, just enough. A kid stood in the reeds 20 yards out. Skinny. Barefoot. Staring like kids do when they don't have to be anywhere. His eyes caught the light wrong for half a second. That trick eyes do, or not a trick. Hard to tell in that hour. He didn't smile. Didn't wave. Just eased back into the green and was gone. Leaves closed like a zipper. The bugs went quiet for a beat, then came back mean. That's it. No big ending. No medals for monster hunting. No chaplain speech that fits. We went into the swamp for training. Something old hunted us. We pulled 2 survivors and a stack of lies out of it. The rest is noise. Here's what I keep. The sound of slow breathing in dark trees. The bent rifle. The claw marks deeper than a knife. The one flare that did its job. Keen held together. Doc stayed steady. Tex fought. Sanderson vanished between one breath and the next. Alvarez stepped out and made a choice so the rest of us had a shot. I don't dress it up. That's what happened. If you ever find yourself working that country, do the simple things right. Count heads. Keep spacing. Keep your boots tied. Don't burn your last flare on nerves. Don't say its name. If something scratches at your walls, you hold. When you get a window, you run. Leave no names in the mud. People ask if it was real. I say this. I have a scar from a thing with 4 claws and a bad attitude. I have dog tags that belong to a good kid who didn't come home. I have a map with a red box the army won't use anymore. Real enough. Sometimes the wind turns cool in hot weather and I smell pennies and wet dog. I hear that slow breath again. I don't look for eyes in the trees. I don't go back to that grid. I just say a name and keep moving. So that's the end of our video. If you made it this far, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free. And if you want more terrifying encounters like this one, check out the other videos on screen right now. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there. See you soon.